I have come to the conclusion that the 2024 Eagles make absolutely no sense. After a brutal loss on Monday night where it looked like they reverted back to the 2023 Eagles, they come out in an improbable fashion, score a go-ahead touchdown with a minute to play, and win an ugly thriller in New Orleans against the high-powered number one offense of the Saints. They hold them to 12 points. 1 week, the defense is terrible. The next week, they're great. 1 week, the offense is great. The next week, they're terrible. I can't figure out these Eagles, but they salvaged their season. They now move to 2-1 and somehow, some way get the job done. We will break it all down, but welcome into A to Z Philly. I'm RB. Be sure to subscribe to our show if you do enjoy the coverage. And we must start it off with our guy, DeVonta Smith. Prayers up for DeVonta. He had a pretty good game today as well. I thought it was underrated, made some nice catches and runs, but let's hope he's okay because DeVonta took what I thought was a brutal hit. I don't know how there was no penalty flag thrown. CJ Garner-Johnson, former Saint, says, quote, "That's the dirtiest ish I've ever seen in football, bro." It looked like DeVonta Smith literally got laid out and knocked out. It looked like he didn't even have consciousness. Thankfully, he was able to get up, walk off the field. But I have a huge problem with the officials in this game. DeVonta Smith gets hit. He's a defenseless receiver. No flag thrown. The NFL trying to protect their guy. It's absolutely ridiculous. And later in this game, Trevor Penning literally pushes Darius Slay all the way to the damn bench, injures him, and gets a 15-yarder. Doesn't even get thrown out, anything like that. The NFL needs to do a better job protecting their players. But hopefully the Eagles are okay. They're going to need these guys. A lot of injuries stacking up on this team. Lane Johnson, Mekhi Becton, DeVonta Smith, and more go out in this game. They're going to need to get healthy soon. But we must start it on the offensive side when it comes to Dallas Goedert because 170 yards, a record-breaking performance in the Eagles franchise, most ever by a tight end in a single game in Eagles history. He is now in the record books, and the Eagles' number one weapon in this game, Dallas Goedert, confirmed that he is still that guy, right? I had a lot of questions about Dallas Goedert. I've always said that he has not been utilized enough, and today he confirmed that. I was ready to make some takes about Goedert if he was not used, if he could not create separation in this game, but it goes back to what we've all been preaching about Goedert. Use him. Utilize your guy. Use him in the open middle of the field. This guy can play. The one-handed catch on third down, the catch over his shoulder. Dallas Goedert is a reliable, potent weapon for this offense, and there's no reason that he should be used 10 times in one game, and the next week he goes disappearing. The Eagles need to figure out how to scheme him open. Jalen needs to trust his guy. Dallas Goedert was one of the main reasons the Eagles won this game today. He is a sneaky weapon because it feels like a lot of people have forgotten about him. Dallas Goedert led this offense back, and on a 3rd and 16, in improbable fashion, 1 minute to go, he finds 61 yards down the sideline, catches over the middle of the field. Saints miscommunication. Lattimore runs into the linebacker. Goedert runs it all the way down to the 4 and saved what really would have been a disgusting, putrid, felt like a season-breaking loss if the Eagles had not scored that touchdown. And before we get into the other sneaky weapon in this game, we also have to give our praise to Saquon. He's not a secret weapon. We know what this guy is, but Howie Roseman went out and paid a game changer. He's not just a running back. He's not a dime a dozen, find him in the 4th round running back. You pay Saquon for games like this, and taking the drop last week out of the equation, Saquon has almost won every single game for the Eagles. If he makes that catch last week, he would be responsible for every win because Saquon has been that good, ladies and gentlemen. 20 touches today total, 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is absolutely incredible. This guy got 5 carries in the first half. Matter of fact, he didn't touch the ball in the first quarter. It is getting to be a problem that the Eagles don't scheme him early in games. Saquon was great in week 1 coming out of the gate. Week 2, you don't use him on the first drive. Week 3, you don't use him on the first drive. And then in the second half, he goes absolutely bonkers with 130 yards on 12 carries, 2 touchdowns. And he can be the guy that you ride this offense on. He can be the guy to take the lead, to take charge. He can make things free up. He can make things so much easier. Even in a game without A.J. Brown, just continue to feed the rock to Saquon. He is that good. And that 65-yard touchdown he had in this game longest of his career, I believe, was the reason the Eagles got back in this game. They had no life. They left points on the board, which we'll get to, and they had 0 points in the third quarter of a football game, which we would not ever expect. And the play after DeVonta goes down with injury, Eagles have pretty much nobody out there at receiver. Saquon picks up his boys and breaks one off for 65 yards. Just another incredible performance. Here's his first 3 games as an Eagles. 132 yards, 3 touchdowns, 116, no touchdowns, 156 with 2 touchdowns combined. Unbelievable job from Saquon Barkley. But okay, we must give our credit. We must tip our caps to the defense, ladies and gentlemen. Bravo, Vic Fangio. Bravo to the defensive line. We did not know if they could ever come back from what we saw the first 2 weeks. They were incredible. They were locked down. They were a stone wall today, and they did not let their biggest explosive weapon in Alvin Kamara get going. The Eagles' defensive line were committed to stopping the run, like Vic Fangio said. They locked down on the outside. The corners were great. Darius Slay, even before getting injured, I mean, he was just incredible. Quinyon Mitchell did a pretty solid job. Avonte Maddox, the whole secondary was amazing. And the Eagles today, 3 yards per carry allowed, 12 points total, 219 total yards against an offense that was averaging 45.5 points per game in the first 2 weeks, and seal it off with an interception. Vic Fangio with an incredible game plan. This is just one game. We need to see if the Eagles can do this consistently and keep it up, but this is how they need to play and perform. This was Super Bowl level defense today, and if they can put it all together with all of their units combined, and the defense can play up to par like this, then maybe they actually do have some players on the defensive side. Maybe they can be a really competent team. Saints converted 3 third downs on the opening drive. The rest of the game, they had 9 drives total, 3 for 10 on third down, 0 for 1 on fourth, an interception and 9 points. Defense really tightened up, and they were the real reason. They were the second sneaky weapon. They were the ultimate overall achievers in this game that kept the Eagles in it, even when the offense was fluttering, even when they had no signs of life. This game felt like a slow, painful, dying death, and the Eagles offense had nothing, no life source. The Eagles defense stuck in there and held their own every single drive. Derek Carr came back to earth. No Rashid Shaheed. He didn't even touch the ball. Chris Olave had a touchdown later in the game. The Eagles defense, I mean, you thought they'd give it up at some point, but overall, they made the plays that needed to be made, and they won it with a game-sealing interception. Jordan Davis finally gets in the backfield and gets that first sack. That has to feel good. I thought Nolan Smith made some good tackles. The linebackers were great. Nakobe Dean, former Saint Zach Bond, he's been pretty solid 3 weeks in a row now. I think we really have something in Zach Bond. But Jalen Carter, you draft this guy. He's a generational talent. He was, quote unquote, the best player in the draft last year, and he had a freaking game. He didn't have a sack, but he was in that backfield 4, 5, 6 times. He was breaking through. The Saints O-line gets banged up. Their center goes down on the third play of the game. Jalen Carter knew he had a mismatch to exploit, and he continued to get in there. And man, what a game from Jalen Carter. But my favorite thing is that when DeVonta goes down on a dirty hit and the Saints are getting rowdy and the fans are going crazy, Jalen Carter's actually got to step up and stick it to him. He's yelling. He's getting held back by Eagles sideline personnel. He's getting held back by Nick Sirianni. This is the type of intensity that this defense needs, and it was led by the young cat in Jalen Carter. He had an incredible game. Bryce Huff not being on the field helped this team. Your $17 million man is looking like a whiff. Second straight game where Bryce Huff did not show up in the box score. The Eagles' defensive improvement was undoubtedly related to him not playing as much. I mean, look at the yards in this game. You would think the Eagles won it, 40-10. They had 460 yards of offense. Saints only had 219. The Eagles had 172 yards on the ground. The Saints only had 89. Just bravo. Great job. And after the game, you see Reed Blankenship, who now has his second interception on the season, sealed the game along with his safety partner in CJ Gardner-Johnson celebrating. Got to feel good. CJ has not played against his former team the last 2 years, and he also comes in a couple big hits in the locker room after the game talking smack. He says, quote, "They ain't no contenders. They're pretenders. They have Derek Carr. Remember that." I don't know if I'd be talking that much smack. You did give up a touchdown to Chris Olave wide open, but I do love his mentality. And I know we feel a little bit rah-rah right now, but I will say there was a lot of concerning things in this game. I mean, if the Eagles lost this, we'd probably be calling for heads. And I still think there's a lot of concern moving forward. Now, again, the defense playing well was a great sign. They have to keep it up, but the offense seems completely lost. Just because A.J. Brown goes down doesn't mean they shouldn't be able to scheme guys open. They shouldn't use Saquon early in games. Dallas Goedert has to remain a focal point in this offense. There's a lot to question, right? We didn't see a lot of creativity, again, from Kellen Moore, and I hope he gets better because week 1 showed me that he has the ability to draw up a really good game plan, but that should not solely rely on A.J. Brown being present. Anyway, I think Nick Sirianni's the bigger issue. His decision-making was once again brutal, and he admits that it was his call alone to go for it on 4th down at the end of the half. It's a 4th and 1. You're at the 15-yard line, 14 seconds and a timeout. I would have took the 3 points. You had 0 at that point in the game. Once again, you left 3 there. You left 3 in the third quarter. 6 points left on the board for Nick Sirianni. And then late in the game, he decides to go for a 60-yard field goal when he probably should have punted with how his defense was playing. And Nick also said after the game that Jalen Hurts is a winner, gave him credit. I mean, Jalen has to stop the turnovers. He had an interception in the end zone. I thought that was more on DeVonta, but for not coming back in the route, but Jalen still has to make better throws, make better decisions. I will give the O-line a ton of credit. They made a huge, huge contribution in this game. You lose Lane Johnson, you lose Mekhi Becton. Those are important pieces. Credit to Stoutland, man. Those guys, Fred Johnson, Tyler Steen, they stepped in. This offensive line was rock solid again. I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, you don't win a game many times when you go 4 possessions in a row into opposing territory and come up with 0 points. You don't win many games in the NFL when you lose a turnover battle. Even Jalen on that fumble, scrambling out to his left, gets hit from behind. Felt like a Wentz type of fumble. He needs to be a lot better, man. Nick Sirianni needs to have this team a lot more well-prepared. They were able to somehow pull out this win, but man, if they don't fix some of these issues, it could get concerning. They play the Bucs next week, who got ran all over by the Broncos. Maybe the Bucs are not legit. The Eagles need their payback from that playoff loss and show us that this team can be what we thought they could be moving forward. So we'll see what happens. Give me all your thoughts down below on this win.
Welcome to BetMGM Live Dealer. All your favorite casino games, blackjack, poker, roulette, craps, and more. All on your phone, desktop, or tablet 24/7. Play with friends or make new ones at the tables.
Double down, Dave.
Chat with players and live dealers like you're at the casino.
Give me a 10. Yes!
Now you're betting with the king of Live Dealer.